Thus we draw near to the All-Wonderful, following His rapture in things as sign and guide. Beauty is His footprint, showing us where He has passed. Love is His heartbeat's rhythm in mortal breasts. Happiness smile on His adorable face. A communion of spiritual entities, a genius of creative immanence, makes all creation deeply intimate. A fourth dimension of aesthetic sense, where all is in ourselves, ourselves and all, to the cosmic wideness realigns our souls.
And that's such an important passage that we've just been through. I mean, not just the beauty of it, but he speaks of this fourth dimension
Mhm.
of aesthetic sense. And in that dimension, all is in ourselves, and ourselves are in all. It's the divine who has come down and is in the multiplicity and is still one.
Mm.
So beautiful. So now we'll begin today a kindling rapture.
A kindling rapture joins the seer and seen, the craftsman and the craft, grown inly one, achieve perfection by the magic throb and passion of their close identity.
Yeah, but can you weave those lines into one feeling? So we have this kindling rapture that is joining the seer and what the seer sees,
Mm.
seen. And then the craftsman and the craft grown inly one, grown. We have to get that N pronounced.
Mm.
The craftsman and the craft that are grown inly one achieve perfection by the magic throb and passion of their close identity. So this is a very important line, this craftsman and this craft.
Mhm.
Now, inly, I know Madhav Pandit used to talk a lot about inly.
Mm.
Inly is an inward manner, deeply within, intimately, deeply within.
Mhm.
So the craftsman, one who creates something, and the craft itself become one. They grow. Okay, good. All right, so we'll continue on then.
All that we slowly piece from gathered parts, or by long labor stumblingly evolve, is there self-born by its eternal right.
Yeah, but you're reading a little too fast.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have to see what he's saying here. All that we slowly piece from gathered parts, because we that's all we can do is we can piece things together from these different parts in our life, our associations, our education, etc. And or by long labor, stumblingly evolve. Look at the alliteration there. Long labor, stumblingly evolve. Is there self-born by its eternal right? And I have spoken to you often about the word self-born,
Mm.
hyphenated.
Yes.
Good. So everything that we try to piece together from these gathered parts is already self-born there by its eternal right. And now he's going to tell us what we can do and about the intuitive fire.
In us too, the intuitive fire can burn.
No, too fast. In us too, the intuitive fire can burn.
In us too, the intuitive fire can burn. An agent light, it is coiled in our folded hearts, on the celestial levels is its home. Descending, it can bring those heavens here.
Yes, it can do that. It's an agent light, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And that intuitive fire can burn. And although this light is, its home is on the celestial levels, when it descends, when it comes down, it can bring those heavens here.
Mm-hmm.
And we have seen that Mother has spoken very often about Agni and her experiences with Agni. But, okay, carry on and slowly.
But rarely burns the flame, nor burns for long. The joy it calls from the diviner heights brings brief, magnificent reminiscences and high,
Uh,
splendid
reminiscences.
reminiscences. Okay. And high, splendid glimpses of interpreting thought, but not the utter vision and delight.
So this is very important, extremely important. So,
But rarely burns the flame,
yeah.
nor burns for long. Hmm.
And I think we've all experienced that.
Yeah.
We've had those moments where the flame was really burning, and then we've had those moments where we were totally out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even not even intensely thinking about Mother or Sri Aurobindo, but thinking about the problems of the day
Yes.
or the injuries to our.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, then the joy it calls from those diviner heights does bring brief, magnificent reminiscences. Reminiscences are certainly just remembrances,
Mm-hmm.
reminiscences. And it also brings high, splendid glimpses of interpreting thought, but it doesn't bring the utter vision and delight. And we know that. Now, why doesn't it do that? He's going to tell us now.
A veil is kept, something is still held back, lest captives of the beauty and the joy, our souls forget to the highest to aspire.
And I think that this is sort of relevant to periods in Indian uh, spirituality where one touched an area that was so high that
Mm-mm.
one felt there was no need to go any further. They were united with the divine. What else is there to do?
Mm,
It is only Sri Aurobindo and Mother who have
mm,
come down, the only ones who have come down and told us, no, it's the earth that has to be transformed and the divine life established here. Very important. So a veil is kept. Obviously, something is still held back because if we are captivated by the beauty and the joy,
mm.
souls might forget to aspire to the highest. When we put it into prose, it's so simple, isn't it?
Mhm.
I mean, it takes the beauty of the poetry out of it, but it's just for understanding
Yes.
that we do it. We don't do it for anything,
Yeah.
any other reason. So let's continue on a bit.
In that fair, subtle realm behind our own, the form is all, and physical gods are kings.
So we see that this is very true. That it's a subtle realm where the gods are, the many gods. It can be Shiva, it can be Vishnu. Um, the form is everything, and these physical gods are kings, but they don't have the possibility of evolution.
Evolution.
Right. So the form is all, and physical gods are king. Now he's going to tell us what happens here, the inspiring light.
The inspiring light plays in fine boundaries, A faultless beauty comes by nature's grace. Their liberty is perfection's guarantee. Although the absolute image lacks the word incarnate, the sheer spiritual ecstasy, all is a miracle of symmetric charm, a fantasy of perfect line and rule.
Yeah, it's a bit of a complicated sentence, isn't it?
Mm.
So we see that this inspiring light is playing in fine boundaries, and even a faultless beauty comes by nature's grace. And that beauty is is so powerful that the inspiring light has to play in fine boundaries, because if once we saw it, we probably would be destroyed by its power.
Mhm.
Mother has spoken of that quite often. I've told you about Huta's experience of seeing Mother from the waist up.
Yeah.
And so this inspiring light is playing in very fine boundaries. And this faultless beauty comes by nature's grace. Nature here is the active force of conscious being, which
Mm-hmm.
is realizing itself in its powers of self experience. And so that's extremely important. It's the seer will, it's the power of the spirit, not the ignorant nature, but the true nature. And he capitalizes the N.
Yeah.
So their liberty is the guarantee of perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And although this absolute image is lacking, the word incarnate, so the absolute image is the word incarnate, and it's
Mm-hmm.
also the sheer spiritual ecstasy. So we have three things that he's speaking about: the word incarnate, the sheer spiritual ecstasy, and the absolute image.
Mm-hmm.
So all those three things are lacking. Still, all is a miracle of symmetric charm. And it's a fantasy of perfect line and rule. Now, why he's telling us that, he's going to tell us why that is and what happens when we feel that and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
They're all.
They all feel satisfied in themselves and whole. A rich completeness is by limit made. Marvel in an utter littleness abounds. An intricate rapture riots in a small space. Each rhythm is kin to its environment. Each line is perfect and inevitable. Each object faultlessly built for charm and use.
So he's telling us where everything is a miracle of symmetric charm and the sheer spiritual ecstasy, this fantasy of perfect line and rule. Because it's so, everyone feels satisfied in themselves and they even feel whole. Look at
Mm,
that, satisfied in themselves and whole.
mm,
And so this rich completeness is made by limit.
right.
And marvel in an utter littleness abounds,
Mhm.
not greatness or
Yeah,
vastness, but
yeah.
an utter littleness.
Mm,
And an intricate rapture riots in a
mm.
small space. And each rhythm is kin to its environment. Each line is perfect and inevitable. Each object, look at these eaches, huh? Each
Mm.
rhythm, each line, each object, faultlessly built for charm and use. And then we continue on now.
All is enamored of its own delight.
Yes, captivated, we could say, enamored. in love with in
Mm,
love with its own delight.
right.
Okay.
Intact it lives of its perfection sure, in a heaven pleased, self glad immunity. Content to be, it has need of nothing more.
So we're seeing here that this is a small frame of existence
Mm,
because it lives sure of its own perfection and
mhm,
therefore it's intact.
mm,
And then it's in a heaven pleased, self glad immunity. Look at that, two hyphenated words,
mm,
heaven pleased and self glad.
yeah.
He wants us to know that it's very content where it is.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have any need of anything more.
Yeah.
And now he's going to tell us what is not there.
Here was not futile effort's broken heart, exempt from the ordeal and the test, empty of opposition and of pain. It was a world that could not fear nor grieve.
Now, this is most interesting because in this world, everything is content to be. We've just read that. And
Mm,
it's a heaven pleased, self glad immunity in this world. So there is not this broken heart of a futile effort,
mm,
which pushes us to be better than ourselves, to grow greater than ourselves. So he has a colon after the word heart, and that means if we are exempt from the ordeal and the test, if we are empty of opposition and of pain, then we are in a world that could not fear nor grieve.
mhm,
And of course, fear and grievance is not a good thing,
mm,
but pain can be a very good thing. And
mm,
the ordeal and the test is a very important thing to all of us. We're challenged at every moment that way.
mm,
Um, so here was not futile effort's broken heart. What was there? Well, exempt from the ordeal and the test, exempt, empty of opposition and of pain, it was a world that could not fear nor grieve.
mhm.
Now, he's going to tell us even more why it's a problem in this world.
It had no grace of error or defeat. It had no room for fault, no power to fail.
Because they're totally satisfied with themselves in that world.
Mhm,
They're they're sure of the perfection of its world. They're enamored of their own delight, and there's a kind of self-glad immunity, and they're content to be. All of these things he's telling us, but
mm,
he says there's not the futile efforts broken heart
mm,
because they're exempt from the ordeal and the test. They're empty of opposition and of pain.
yeah.
So it had no grace of error. Isn't that a beautiful line? It had no grace of
Grace of
error
error of defeat, right.
or defeat. It had no room for fault, no power to fail. Very, very interesting.
Mm,
He's giving us so many insights into this world.
right.
So we'll read a little bit more.
Mm. Out of some packed self bliss, it drew at once its form discoveries of the mute idea and the miracle of its rhythmic thoughts and acts, its clear technique of firm and rounded lives, its gracious people of inanimate shapes, and the glory of breathing bodies like our own.
So this is, of course, a definition of the kingdom of subtle matter,
Mm-hmm.
which we are in now. And we're seeing the beings in this world of subtle matter.
Mm.
And so it's extremely important to remember that as we move along, because um, from this packed self bliss, it can draw its form discoveries of the mute idea. Now, Sri Aurobindo, I've talked to you a lot about his capitalization of the word idea,
Mm.
which is actually a synonym for the supramental
Yes.
or the gnosis. So it can draw that from those form discoveries and the miracle of its rhythmic thoughts and acts, its clear technique of firm and rounded lives, and in addition to that, its gracious people of inanimate shapes. Oh, see,
Mm.
they don't have animate shapes.
Mm.
It could be I wouldn't use the word aliens, but people from different structures.
Right.
Right? And glory of breathing bodies like our own. So they are breathing bodies
Mm-hmm.
like our own, but they're gracious people of inanimate shapes. This is so interesting. You'd say, I'd like to see this world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably what Sradalu and Mark are studying now.
Right.
Because I know that Mark has helped Sradalu a lot
Mm-hmm.
in understanding these worlds.
Mm.
So, and I guess he's now gone to them. So
Yeah.
I talked to him about it intensely, but I believe that's it. So it's
Should I
great to,
say?
yeah, you want to, let's read four more lines or
Okay.
five more lines.
Okay.
Now, Ashwapati is looking, he's experiencing this kingdom of subtle matter, and it's only Canto 2
Yes.
of the Traveler of the Worlds. So, amazed,
Amazed, his senses ravished with delight, he moved in a divine, yet kindred world, admiring marvelous forms so near to ours, yet perfect like the playthings of a god, deathless in the aspect of mortality.
yeah, the only thing is the first line, I would say, amazed, his senses ravished with delight.
His senses ravished with delight.
Yes, see the difference?
Mhm.
And therefore, this is Ashwapati's senses now. And he
Mm.
moved in a divine yet kindred world, admiring marvelous forms so near to ours,
Mhm.
yet perfect like the playthings of a god, deathless in the aspect of mortality.
Mm.
Not immortality, in the aspect of mortality.
Mm.
But, so you'll read, and then I have to go to my next class.
Yes. So, page 112 uh, from a kindling rapture.
Yes.
A kindling rapture joins the seer and seen, the craftsman and the craft, grown inly one, achieve perfection by the magic throb and passion of their close identity. All that we slowly piece from gathered paths, or by long labor stumblingly evolve, is their self born by its eternal right. In us too, the intuitive fire can burn, an agent light, it is coiled in our folded hearts, on the celestial levels is its home. Descending, it can bring those heavens here, but rarely burns the flame, nor burns for long. The joy it calls from those diviner heights brings brief, magnificent reminiscences and
Reminiscences.
reminiscences and high, splendid glimpses of interpreting thought, but not the utter vision and delight. A veil is kept, something is still held back, lest, captives of the beauty and the joy, our souls forget to the highest to aspire. In that fair, subtle realm behind our own, the form is all, and physical gods are kings. The inspiring light plays in fine boundaries. A faultless beauty comes by nature's grace. Their liberty is perfection's guarantee. Although the absolute image lacks the word incarnate, the sheer spiritual ecstasy, all is a miracle of symmetric charm, a fantasy of perfect line and rule. They all feel satisfied in themselves and whole. A rich completeness is by limit made. Marvel in an utter littleness abounds. An intricate rapture riots in a small space. Each rhythm is kin to its environment. Each line is perfect and inevitable. Each object faultlessly built for charm and use. All is enamored of its own delight. Intact, it lives of its perfection sure in a heaven pleased, self glad immunity. Content to be, it has need of nothing more. Here was not futile effort's broken heart, exempt from the ordeal and the test, empty of opposition and of pain. It was a world that could not fear nor grieve. It had no grace of error or defeat. It had no room for fault, no power to fail. Out of some packed self bliss it drew at once its form discoveries of the mute idea and the miracle of its rhythmic thoughts and acts, its clear technique of firm and rounded lives, its gracious people of inanimate shapes and glory of breathing bodies like our own. Amazed his senses, ravished with delight, he moved in a divine yet kindred world, admiring marvelous forms so near to ours, yet perfect like the playthings of a god, deathless in the aspect of mortality.
More next week. I have to go quickly.
Yes,
Sorry.
thank you so
Bye.
much. Namaste.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.